Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live. And boy, this is a shocking broadcast and something that I was really not paying as much attention to. I guess I should have realized it already because these two men, although by many accounts, even by Trump supporters hail Putin as a great man. And at one time, I used to think the same thing until I got educated by Eduardo Hudo, the former mayor of Kharkiv, Ukraine, and also the man that exposed the plot that Putin was doing inside of Russia. Well, oddly enough, now as we get this latest statement coming out, Putin talking about a new world order is forming, the old one's going down and a new one is being formed, I could not help but realize that both men, both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, really have the same objective in mind. And that is something I think is going to really shock you when you see exactly what I'm talking about. First, let's look at what Putin had to say here, being translated from Russian to English here. Listen into this.
To a certain extent, the moment of truth is coming. The previous world order is irreversibly becoming a thing of the past. One could say has become a thing of the past. And the shaping of the new world order is becoming the scene of uncompromising fight.
There you go. The seemingly new world order that has been is now a thing of the past, and now a new world order is shaping. I told you, it just depends on which new world order you want. So many people, as Trump was coming into power, was saying he's going to drain the swamp, he's going to get rid of the new world order. Putin's against the new world order, but I kept telling you that Putin has this idea of a new world order. And now I realize what it is. And by the way, it's still being controlled by Israel one way or the other. The only difference is it's shifting from the liberal Jewish side, or the, how would you put it there, the non-Orthodox Jewish side, to the ultra-Orthodox Jewish side that is going to control the world order now. So that's what the changing shape is. And I really owe a great debt of gratitude to Eduardo Hudo, the former Chabad rabbi, who was also the mayor of Kharkiv, Ukraine, that really exposed Putin and what he was doing. At one time, I really thought myself, Putin was a great guy. I thought the man did a wonderful, wonderful job in Russia. He got rid of the oligarchs, but, in reality, he was getting rid of the oligarchs, but at the same time, he was forging that relationship with the Chabad organization, which was going to take shape for the New World Order, which only makes sense because why? If Israel is going to have a third temple, if they are going to change the times and the law or the decree of Artaxerxes and say that the restoration of the second temple was not for the coming of the Messiah, because after all, you have to reject Jesus Christ as the Messiah and embrace a false Messiah or an Antichrist in order to do that. So therefore, you have to say that that decree, that word, that the word Hebrew there that is used in Daniel 7:25 is the word dot. Dot means it's a Persian word, means decree. It is a kingly decree, not a Torah, not a law that we see so often inside of the Bible. So they wanted to change that. In order to do that, in order to build that third temple, you've got to get the people convinced that the timelines are off, that the Messiah was for a future time. It wasn't 2,000 years ago with Jesus Christ, after all. Instead, it's for a future date, which also, by the way, I actually made an unbelievable discovery. I haven't even done the video on it as of yet. I may share that over on our Patreon channel to start with. but I discovered what may be the actual name that was used for Jesus back when he was here on the earth there. Very, very interesting thing I'll share with you guys later here. But we'll probably share it over on Patreon first there. Anyway, going back to this whole thing, though, Putin embraced the Chabad organization. Well, Trump is doing the exact same thing. It's no different with Trump than it is with anybody else there. When it comes to Donald Trump, we know that Trump also embracing the Chabad organization. In fact, this video right here, I want you just to pay attention. Of course, this is about that where Trump, the article, the little clip here on Twitter here is all about Trump making a call out to Putin, asking him not to escalate the war in Ukraine. They're working together, guys. You got to pay attention to what's going on. But I want you to see something here in this video clip here. As he greets Trump, this is back in 2019 there. It's an old video when he was president the last time around. And but watch what happens when Putin goes up to shake hands. I want you to notice who he shakes hands with. Notice the young lady there and her husband, Jared Kushner, the Chabad, the American representative for the Trump administration, the Chabad young man. And I'm not against him as far as what he believes on that, but what it is, it's bringing about a new world order. And Ivanka Trump, his daughter there, sorry, not Ivanka, but his daughter, who converted to Judaism and became also a Chabad Jewish lady there. So that's what you have right there, Jared and his wife there. And I just find this very fascinating there. I get the names mixed up. I apologize about that on that. But anyway, let's move on though. I want to bring you back though. The happy-go-lucky Jewish group that connects Trump and Putin. This was kind of an interesting article. I want to just share some of the highlights in here. Notice Chabad of Port of Washington, a Jewish community center on Long Island's Manhasset Bay, sits in a squat brick edifice across from the Shell gas station and strip mall. The center is unexceptional building on an unexceptional street, save for one thing. Some of the shortest routes between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin run straight through it. That's the first paragraph. 2 decades ago, the Russian president set about consolidating power on one side of the world. He embarked on a project to supplant his country's existing Jewish civil society and replace it with a parallel structure loyal to him. Notice he was getting rid of the existing Jewish civil society in Russia, but he replaced it with a parallel structure loyal to him. On the other side, or vice versa, he was loyal to them. They say that in the article, but you don't realize it's the other way around. The brash Manhattan developer was working to get a piece of massive flows of capital that were fleeing the former Soviet Union in search of stable assets in the West, especially real estate, and seeking partners in New York with ties to the region. Their respective ambitions led the two men, along with Trump's future son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to build a set of close overlapping relations in a small world that intersects on Chabad and international Hasidic movement most people have never heard of. Well, you should have heard about it by now. They have overtaken the world politically. I was part of the Chabad group myself for nearly 20 years, not as an Orthodox Jew, but because I have a Jewish background, I was welcomed with open arms, and so I was involved with this group for 20 years. Starting in 1999, Putin enlisted 2 of his closest confidants, the oligarchs Lev Laviv. He is a multi-billionaire, and Roman Abramovich. By the way, Roman Abramovich, he's the one that made Putin famous. He's the one that found him. He's the one that was his discovery. He's the big guy that runs all the media of Russia. And he made him famous. But the problem is Roman had converted to Christianity, and therefore Israel had nothing really to do with him, and he's going to be toppled as a result. who would go on to become Chabad's biggest patrons worldwide to create the Federation of Jewish Communities of Russia under the leadership of Chabad Rebbe Beryl Lazar. That right there, my friends, is Beryl Lazar right there. There you go. He is the head rabbi of Russia. Okay? So, anyway, continuing on, who would come to be known as Putin's rabbi. Let's skip down here to the next yellow. Meanwhile, the links between Trump and Chabad kept piling up. In 2007, Trump hosted the wedding of Sapir's daughter and Lviv's right-hand man. By the way, Lviv is he's the blood diamond guy is what I call him here, right? He's the one where you get the blood diamonds. They made that famous movie out of Africa there using this child slave labor, but became very wealthy from that. I did a video on this long time ago. At his Palm Beach resort, a few months after the ceremony, Lviv met Trump to discuss potential deals in Moscow and then hosted a breeze for the new couple's first son of the holiest site in Chabad Judaism. Trump attended the breeze along with Kushner, of course, who would go on to buy $300 million building from Lviv and marry Ivanka. Oh, I did have it right. I always think, for some reason, I always think that Ivanka is Trump's wife, but it's his daughter. So I had it right to start with. My apologies earlier. Who would form a close relationship with Abramovich's wife, Dasha Zahokova. Zahokova would host the power couple in Russia in 2014 and reportedly attend Trump's inauguration as their guest. Jumping a little further down, founded in Lithuania 1775, the Chabad Lubavitch movement today has adherents numbering in the 5 or perhaps 6 figures. What the movement lacks in numbers, it makes up in enthusiasm. It is known for the practicing a particularly joyous form of Judaism. It is a political wing is what it is. It is a powerful political wing. It is what Netanyahu has got his support from. It is also the reason of the right-wing radical part of his coalition in Israel that is totally annihilating the Gaza people and committing genocide, and the world stands by and does nothing. And now Trump supposedly tells Netanyahu to bring the war to an end by the time I start my presidency. Well, if it does end, all it's going to be is to lift him up as someone great so they can bring about this new world order. We've been duped completely, guys. Completely duped into believing that Trump is some kind of savior to the world. And Kamala is no better. I mean, she was controlled by them. Listen, AIPAC controls both sides. It doesn't matter if you're Congress, Senator, Democrat, Republican, for that matter, independent. In fact, it's probably the only reason independent never makes it anywhere. Maybe some of them are definitely not controlled by AIPAC, and AIPAC knows it, so they're not going to waste their money on them, right? They control who they want to control, and that comes to that's everything, right? Despite its small size, Chabad has grown to become the most sprawling Jewish institution in the world. By the way, notice the time frame there, 1775, then going into the 1800s. It was designed, they think in centuries about preparing for what they're going to do, including all the wars, everything. They also mention Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson, which, by the way, even though he died in 1994, Trump, before getting elected president, was there praying at his grave. Think about that, right? So I just wanted to share some of those little clips there, but then you go into, wait a minute. That's not the one I want. Let me get to the right one. Here we go. Before we go back to Putin's rabbi there, this is some excerpts from Eduardo Hudo in his comments on Putin. He said, I first heard about the current president, which that's back in 1997, he's writing this, of Russia's, not writing it in 1997, but I think 1999, Putin during an official visit to Israel in 1997. Now this is when Eduardo, let me show you a picture of Eduardo. Let me see, maybe they have it on here, I don't know. Here we go. This is Eduardo Hudos. He, by the way, at 75 years of age, he converted to Christianity, Russian Orthodox Christianity. And I'm not against different forms of Christianity. If you believe Jesus, thank God for that. I know that there's the hierarchies and things like that, whether it be the Vatican and all their nonsense that they've got going on, but there's a lot of good Catholics that just mean they love the Lord, okay? Same thing with Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, but yet they're over there killing each other in Ukraine right now. So that's what bothers me. But anyway, he converted to Christianity, but was a rabbi for the Chabad Lubavitch organization for decades. Anyway, so he goes here, he says, by invitation of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, I, along with then Vice Governor of Kharkov Oblast, Leonid Stavsky, I may have pronounced these names wrong, forgive me, visited Israel as part of the Program for Economic Cooperation between our countries. Watch this. A busy program of events await us, most of which was dedicated to the numerous meetings with representatives of Israel's political and economic elite. Among them was a planned meeting with the president of the New Entrepreneurs Association of Israel, Radoshkovich. At that time, former Leningrad immigrant Yitzhak Radoshkovich had already become a heavyweight figure not only in his own country, but according to rumors, in the corridors of the World Bank as well. Think of this. Our meeting, during the course of which the matter of various investment projects in Kharkov region was discussed, was extremely official in nature. Watch what happens in the green here. The same can't be said about the second meeting with Radoshkovich, with whom we, upon returning to Ukraine, found ourselves in the same airplane. For the entire length of the flight from Tel Aviv to Kiev, we chatted on various topics. And in the course of our chat, he mentioned in passing that his second cousin, Vladimir Putin, had great prospects for advancement in the Russian political elite. Well, now you know that Putin is Jewish, because this was Radoshkovich, a Jewish guy from Ukraine, the governor, no less, of Kharkov region. It's his cousin. His second cousin, Vladimir Putin, is going to become part of the elite. Now, he points out, August 1999, appointed Prime Minister of the Russian Federation. By the year 2000, March, elected President of the Russian Federation. Now, he says here, to what, or rather to whom, was Russia indebted for her successor to the throne? In the form of Vladimir Putin, we all know to whom. It was Boris Abramovich Berezovsky. Berezovsky, who built up his new pretender to Russia's presidential throne in record time. And the indomitable Boris Abramovich searched long and hard for a potential successor. He took his time. You see, the successor would be obligated to preserve family traditions, guarantee Tsar Boris, that's Boris Yeltsin, by the way, complete immunity after his abdication. All right, goes on further. Therefore, it was necessary to popularize the pretender to the throne in the shortest possible time and force the people to believe in his love for Berezovsky's chosen one. The inventive Boris Abramovich solved this problem, too, with a second Chechen war. Now, we can get into all kinds of political things about that, but I want to move down a little, try to go a little faster. When pragmatic politician Vladimir Putin declared war on Jewish oligarchs, Berezovsky and Gunsky, loud and prolonged applause erupted from the increasingly joyful public. Okay, now, I want you to think about this for a minute. When the pragmatic politician, in other words, when Vladimir Putin declared war on Jewish oligarchs, he didn't have to say they were Jewish. He declared war on Berezovsky and Gunsky. the loud applause broke out. Why? That would be like us saying, we're going to bring down AIPAC in America because that, like Trump did, we got to drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. He goes after, if you think about it, he doesn't go after religious Jews that are Chabad members, but instead, he's literally going after the liberal Jews. Trump is doing the exact same thing. I'm going to pause for a moment. I want to take you over here to Trump. Let me find which one I want to go to here real quick. It's going to be the one where he speaks about Chuck Schumer. I think this is it here. Listen to what he says.
Donald Trump lashing out against American Jews for not being more appreciative of what he did for Israel as president. On his social media platform Truth Social, Trump says, quote, "No president has done more for Israel than I have. Somewhat surprisingly, however, our wonderful evangelicals are far more appreciative of this than the people of the Jewish faith, especially those living in the U.S." More ominously, Trump says later in his post, quote, "U.S. Jews have to get their act together and appreciate what they have in Israel before it is too late." The head of the Anti-Defamation League, outraged at what he calls Trump's anti-Semitic tropes, says after 2021, when the ADL recorded the highest number of anti-Jewish incidents it ever has, Trump's words are even more disturbing.
People are feeling, attacked and hewed in from both sides. It's incredibly concerning. So when the president says, before it's too late, it sounds like a threat in an environment where Jews already feel threatened.
Analysts struggling to figure out Trump's political calculation for this vent on the eve of the midterm elections.
It does seem as though watching this, it is Trump expressing pique more than it is him executing an electoral strategy. I suspect that this will reinforce the doubts about Trump among the majority of Jews.
Now notice, Ron Braunstein is also Jewish. These are Jewish people that support Kamala without a doubt. But what is Trump doing? He's getting rid of the liberal Jews. And gosh, the control of the liberal Jews in America. This is horrible. This is terrible. Just like Putin. Look, I don't believe that any group, Jewish, Christian, or whatever, as the founding fathers said, that the church and the state cannot be connected. There is a separation between church and state, as it should be, because when you begin to allow the religious side to come into this, whether it be Christian or Jewish, you have a state that is controlled by one dominant view, and it's no longer a democracy. Putin got rid of all those liberal Jews and he installed Chabad. Trump is doing the exact same thing. Watch what happens here.
Jewish voters and about Republicans.
Aaron David Miller, who worked for 6 secretaries of state.
Aaron David Miller, another liberal Jewish guy.
In Republican and Democratic administrations, disagrees with Trump's claim that he's done more for Israel than any other president. But he says...
But notice who Trump is there with. Of course, Chief Rabbi, but he's there with, and even Jared Kushner right in behind these other two guys, these other two rabbis there. It's all Chabad. Okay, Chabad.
Trump can legitimately claim actions that have supported Israel.
Recognizing, for example, Israeli annexation of the Golan Heights. We know the Israeli government never asked him to do it. Identifying Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the embassy, which was largely symbolic but extremely important, certainly to Israelis.
And Miller points to the 2020 Abraham Accords, brokered by Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab countries.
And again, Jared being Chabad, see, you're really, if you're, it's a fine line. It's just like in America, for the majority, there's Christians and they want Christian politicians in power to support what they believe. I get that, right? But you still have to have that separation, because if you don't, They did the separation of church and state because back years ago, what did we have? We had in Europe, you had the Catholic Church controlled every government in the entire hemisphere there. And this is why the founding fathers wanted that separation, but it's no longer there. Of course, I guess you don't have to say separation of synagogue and state because that must be the loophole.
Despite the fact that Kushner is Jewish, that Trump's daughter Ivanka converted to Judaism, and that some of his own grandchildren are Jewish, this isn't the first time Trump has been accused of failing to counter anti-Semitic forces, like after white supremacist violent rallies in Charlottesville.
Jews will not replace us!
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Trump has on occasion condemned anti-Semitism, but Miller is worried about his latest message.
He's enabled the sorts of extremist forces that have fueled anti-Semitism. And if Jews aren't secure here, where will they be secure?
Now, the one that I'm actually looking for that I have, and let me just see if I can find it real quick for you, is where he talks about Chuck Schumer specifically. And, oh gosh. I have it in here somewhere. Hang on one second, guys. Let me just try to play it and see. I
Put
apologize.
America last. You take a look at that. Look at a guy like Senator Schumer. I've always known him. I've known him a long time. I come from New York. I knew Schumer. He's become a Palestinian. He's a Palestinian now. Congratulations. He was very loyal to Israel and to Jewish people. He's Jewish, but he's become a Palestinian because they have a couple of more votes or something. Nobody's quite figured it out. A vote for Joe Biden is a vote for failure, surrender, and disaster for our country. A vote for your all-time favorite president, President Donald J. Trump.
So he goes after Schumer, and he's done it many, many, many more times there. What is it? He's draining the swamp of the liberal Jews in order to install the Chabad group instead, the Orthodox. And the reason being is because it's a push to a new world order. It's exactly what is said here by Russian President Vladimir Putin here in
To a
his
certain
address
extent,
here.
the moment of truth is coming. The previous world order is irreversibly becoming a thing of the past. One could say has become a thing of the past. And the shaping of the new world order is becoming the scene of uncompromising fight.
There you go. They're creating a new world order where Israel will be the head. They will do away with the United Nations. It will be a Sanhedrin Council. The sad thing is no one seems to really realize how dangerous this is. Freedoms are fixing to be totally abolished and destroyed. Israel had announced recently in Israel, you could be Israeli, but if you stake aside and you're against the genocide that is happening in Gaza, like so many Jewish people are doing, they're speaking out against the terrorism that Israel is doing. I showed you in the video the other day, snipers, Israeli snipers taking out children. You saw this little girl going for the girl's head, no doubt, but hit her in the neck instead. That's not going after Hamas terrorists. That's going after innocent Palestinians. And that's, as you've seen the t-shirt, one shot, 2 kills. Go after the pregnant women. I showed you before that as well. They're getting ready to create a new world order. They're going to take and totally obliterate, and I didn't even have it up, but I'm going to pull it up for you right now, that one scripture. And by the way, you have to look at the video I just did on blessing Israel will be blessed and curse Israel will be cursed. It has nothing to do with that. It was to Abraham. Before he even became Abraham, if you blessed him, and he was talking about the kings in the region because they did by taking his wife and to try to make that their own, which would bring about a curse. I just posted on Danun Institute. I'm going back to Danun Institute with real deep teachings over there. So I posted a little clip of this, but I'm going to take you deeper. You have to understand what that curse is. That curse goes back to the Garden of Eden. The promised seed, the promised child was Jesus Christ. So the curse was to take Abraham's wife. That's what brought the curse. And it did. He poured out the plague upon the Pharaoh and his whole household. That's why the curse is singular to Abraham. Why? Because he's setting the stage for the coming seed, this coming Messiah, the coming promised one. I go into all these things very deeply, but as I was saying, what I wanted to do is I want to take you into Daniel here real quick, chapter 7. This is the one that I talked about just a moment ago in verse 25. See, it says, he shall speak words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. In fact, I deal with this very verse in my new book that I'm writing right now. Now you know who the Antichrist is. That's kind of a title right now. I haven't really come up with the exact title I want to call it yet. But the thing is that he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and that's mentally wear them down. That's what he's done. It's a spirit of Antichrist that has moved down for the last couple of 100 years through the Scofield. By the way, I hate saying Scofield Reference Bible. Put Cyrus in there because Cyrus is important. That's the Cyrus of today, like Cyrus of 2,500 years ago when he was carrying out the decree of his father, the dot, the Persian word in purple right there, vadat, is the word decree from the Persian language, which is the kingly decree that is passed down. Artaxerxes passed it, and then Cyrus carrying it out, putting it on the Cyrus cylinder to send the Jewish people back. All the families, by the way, that they'd taken captive would go back. But he sent also the Jewish people back, rebuild Jerusalem and the temple. He didn't know it, but it was for the coming of the Messiah to fulfill the prophecy. But they want to change that decree and the timing of that 2,500 years ago and apply it to today in the building of a third temple today. That's what they want to do. They don't want to tell you that, but that's what they're trying to do. So this is why this big change with Putin, first with Russia, now Trump with the United States, they're setting up that new world order to put Jerusalem, to put Israel at the head. And sadly, doing as if it was biblical times, wiping out peoples in Lebanon, Syria, Gaza catching the worst of it, of all of it, right? And they're politicians in Israel and everything saying it's okay to kill children. No problem. Go ahead and kill them. And then you negate the blood of Jesus Christ. You negate the promise that you just got through reading over in Genesis chapter 12 there, where Abraham becomes a father to all nations, to all the families of the earth. It says, Kol mishpachot ha'adamah. He'll be a blessing. Later he's called a father. This one he's just called a blessing to all the families of the earth. He says, V'neburuchu becha kol mishpachot ha'adamah. He would become a blessing. He himself, just he himself, not Israel. It's not Israel. Guys, look, people are, I know how so many Christians that are listening, you get upset when you know that people are misquoting the Bible. But this verse is misquoted every day, and nobody seems to even care. You apply it to Israel when it doesn't apply to Israel. It has nothing to do with the modern state of Israel. And I'm not against Israel as a state and the Israeli people having a right to live there and live in peace and harmony. But live in peace and harmony with your neighbors. This is what Moses said for you to do. But you don't do it. You don't care what Moses had to say. You don't care what Daniel had to say. You're going to go out there and do it anyway because you believe that's what should be done. This is why you see Trump doing what he's doing. And of course, Eduardo Hudo clearly brought all this out. Let me continue on what Edward says here. No one guessed that behind Putin's strong-willed decision stood someone else's invisible will, subjugating yet another faceless creature whose only very dubious virtue was his so-called healthy pragmatism. The real reason for President's raid on the best representatives of Russia's Jewish oligarch circles was the strong-willed decision of Chabad, which was able in this way to get rid of the overlying active Gunsky and Brovsky. They were able to get rid of them. What had these two done to anger Chabad? In Brovsky's case, we can find the answer in the publication which we're already acquainted in the Jewish Observer, which provoked today's discussion on the theme of the protocols of the elders of Zion. And I will cite the answer of Bishop Kirill, Metropolitan Smolsky and Kaliningrad, to question he asked concerning the hero now under discussion. He says this, quoting, regards, Boris Abramovich, I must say the following. When I, visiting the representatives of the Israeli President Netanyahu, was in Moscow at the time about the conflict between Gunsky and Brovsky, which was shaking the foundation of public life, I asked him, couldn't Israel somehow get involved? After all, they're your people, he says. In other words, saying they're Jewish. To this, Netanyahu's aide answered, excuse me, Gunsky is ours, but Brovsky is yours. Apparently, he was referring to Brovsky's baptism in the Orthodox Church. Brovsky had converted to Christianity, in other words, and that's where the real problem became. Also, I want to quote here, too, for you as well. The Federation of Jewish Communities of Russia, whose establishment BAB had actively helped enable by donating imposing sums for its development, doesn't figure heretics, merciless ridding itself of them and filling the resulting vacancies with new figures from among its own proper Jews. Chabad Jews, in other words, is what he's saying, are those that support that type of Judaism. And Gunsky, by the way, he did found the Russian Jewish Congress. Let's see here. There's so much that can be done in this article here. I'll put a link for this in here. There's a lot I could say still yet. The problem is what I'm trying to get you guys to understand and see. Trump is doing exactly the same thing that they did years ago. Let's play this clip as well for you real quick.
It's hard to believe, yet despite presiding over this explosion of anti-Semitism, Kamala Harris has done absolutely nothing. She has not lifted a single finger to protect you or to protect your children or to even protect you with words. I'm here today to tell the Jewish American community that this ugly tide of anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas bigotry and hate will be turned back and crushed starting at noon on January 20th, 2025.
When he's talking about crushing it, most of the people that are supporting this are people like Simone Zimmerman, the wonderful Jewish young woman who's former IDF Israeli. So many others. You have Miko Peled. You have, the list just goes on and on and on. If you watch the video we posted this morning with the Hungarian lady that came out of Zionism, you'll see that she lists a whole long list that we knew of and people we didn't know of. There's so many Jewish people that are coming out right now and standing for the right to life. You should say it's the right to life. It's one thing to be an inside job on October the 7th. It's a total another thing to sit there and target children and women who are so innocent. And I say there's a lot of innocent men that are Palestinian that have been killed in this conflict as well. If there's only 2,000 Hamas members to begin with, and yet some, 70,000 now Palestinians have been killed in the Gaza Strip, then you've murdered 68,000 Palestinians. And you still haven't got rid of Hamas. That is clearly a setup. And now Netanyahu, his government's passing this thing to where if Israelis side with Gaza, they're going to send them to Gaza for 6 months for punishment. That tells me that Palestinians in Gaza are open air now target shoot. This is an open air execution camp is what it is. It's it's become, literally, it's just like the Holocaust. I have extended family members that died in the Holocaust, both in Auschwitz and Buchenwald concentration camps. And as I watch what's happening here in Gaza, you have made this an extermination camp, just like Auschwitz was. What makes it any different? No wonder why Holocaust survivors are speaking against what you're doing. And now you're talking about sending Israelis there? Is that your Auschwitz now? Is that where you're going to... Now Israel is deporting Jews to Gaza. And of course, other Arabs in the region as well, not just Jews, but other Arabs, but they're going to deport them to Gaza. It has become the modern day Auschwitz. I'm appalled at what I'm seeing. And if people that are not appalled at what's going on, I don't say Trump doesn't do great for the economy. I'm not against him on things like that. But this man has been so duped by what's going on. I mean, we've been set up from the beginning. Don't think that if Vladimir Putin wasn't staged to be who he is, going back decades ago, that Trump, as he said on Oprah Winfrey, if I become president, this is what I would do. The stage has been set for years. We're just now becoming part of that stage. I want to play for you too here. This from this channel right here, Hamza H. Doesn't have a lot of subscribers, but I haven't got to listen to this entire video, so I don't know for sure what all's on here, but very interesting, just this little clip right here.
Well, I'd have to say that these stories that we've been doing over 3 weeks now on Putin, the Jewish mafia in Russia, in the United States, and now we narrow it down to something called Chabad Lubavitch. Chabad Lubavitch. How am I doing with that?
That's probably close enough. I'm not really a Yiddish speaker myself, so you know.
But this has agencies. This has outlets in 1,000 cities. It's very strong in Russia and it's very strong in the United States. Jared Kushner is a big part of it. Donald Trump is a big part of it, and Vladimir Putin is a big part of it. And, you know, this started to come to light on that book that you referred to. We we covered a story about the book, Robert Friedman's book, Red Mafia, which is kind of the Cold War background to what's going on now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in reading these articles and other ones that I linked to because this story is so fascinating.
Again, and I bring this up because people are waking up to what Chabad is all about. So, I think we are about ready to close up here. Let me just make sure. I thought this was kind of interesting. It just goes to show it doesn't matter if it's Putin or if it's Trump. You put on the kippah, you show your subservience to Israel, and AIPAC does control both sides. It doesn't matter. What swamp are you going to drain? You're involved in both. The only swamp they're going to drain is they're going to get rid of the liberals, is what they're going to do. I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Thank you for listening, and God bless you, and have a blessed rest of your day. Please support the work we do, israelinewslive.org. You can visit our website. And by the way, I would love to have loaded this today. Was unable to because we didn't catch the recording. Jason did, and I'm hoping Jason will get this up. An amazing testimony we got from on our Zoom call Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have a LifeWave Zoom call there, x39hub.com. You're always welcome to come join us. We had a race car driver, nationwide race car driver. He does endurance racing, and I think it's NASCAR, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the professional races that he does there. 58 years old. Edward has severe trouble with his knee, his left knee that is, and he said when he does these endurance races, his leg swells up. He has a hard time, always very concerned about that leg going out on him. And he started using X39 from John Moore's show. He actually, he's listening to us on John Moore, got him encouraged. And he said he actually did it in his testimony last night because of Dr. Darnell. Dr. Darnell, who was actually there in the meeting, she gives her testimony about her gums all healing up. And he said, so he got it because he had the same problem. And He said, and by the way, after 3 months, he said, yes, my gums are all healed too. He said, that's another amazing thing. He says, but the first time I put the patch on, he said, the pain in my knee left me. He said, I haven't had that in 30 years. He said, I did a 2-hour endurance race. And he said, after 2 hours, he said, you depressed the clutch about 1,000 times during that race. And he said, you know, I was done with the race, and he said, and my knee was not swollen. It was not in pain. He said, I'm one of the few one-patch wonders. So God bless you, Edward. Thank you for being a part of that. If you're interested, you can always contact us at benoonx39 at gmail.com. And also right on our website, there's a link for that. But if you want to support the broadcast, which we certainly need your support, just click right there online and donate right online. Of course, our mailing address is there as well. Any kind of debit or credit card you can donate with, but we appreciate your support. Also, too, if you're interested, EMP Shield is on here as well, and how to do that. So thank you for the 2 different ways it helps, or 3 ways you can donate, or you can help yourself by stimulating your stem cells in your body with LifeWave, and of course EMP Shield, which will help you to protect your home on multiple things, whether it be solar blast, EMP strike, lightning strikes. They're amazing. They have a money-back guarantee on their products now. So it's really an amazing product. And you save $50 when you order it through our website with the INL50 code that you add onto there. So thank you for listening. Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live.